happens is just super fascinating. I think it's really interesting to see how small things like that we usually take for granted, when taken away, make a place a living, breathing hell. Plus, when we see these tiny details in newspapers and posters become major parts of the storyline later, it's pretty cool. I'm really excited to hear what you guys think about all of this though. Was it as impactful for you as it was for me? I'd really love to hear your thoughts down below. As always though, I really appreciate you guys tuning in for today's video. You know I love you. I'm out. Hey, what's up guys? This is post-recording Isaac, and I just wanted to let you all know that I now have an official Patreon page, right? I'll try to link it here on screen or somewhere down below, but if you really enjoy this content and you want to help me continue to make it, feel free to check out the Patreon page. For just $5 a month, you can have your name featured in all of my upcoming videos, and you'll receive access to those videos early. Now, for those of you who aren't interested, don't worry, because all of my content is still going to be hosted right here on YouTube. But if you'd like to see your name in the videos, and if you'd like to see them early, check out the Patreon. Much love. I'm out. Ready or Not is no stranger to controversy. Over the past couple of years, it has received a lot of harsh criticism regarding its levels and their use of unfiltered realism. For a lot of people, it sort of feels like Ready or Not goes a bit too far, which is understandable because when a game delves into sensitive topics like CP and mass shootings, it's bound to drive a lot of people away. I would say that the vast majority of people are greatly discomforted by those topics, and they don't want to see that in the media that they consume. And that's fine. This game isn't like Call of Duty. You're not running around playing as Nicki Minaj with a fucking LMG. It's a serious SWAT simulator that doesn't pull its punches. But at the same time, the developers manage to handle these topics with grace and professionalism. And as such, they create some really true-to-life, chilling depictions within their levels. Now, in my opinion, Ready or Not has a ton of different maps that could be called the most creepy or the most unsettling, but there's only one level that manages to take the crown as the most controversial. Elephant. Elephant, in short, is a depiction of a mass shooting occurring at a school. 4 armed intruders have assaulted the science building at Watt Community College, and it is our job as SWAT officers to go in and stop them. Now, I shouldn't have to explain to you why this level is so controversial. Making a level about a school shooting, of all things, is an incredibly risky thing to do as a game developer, because regardless of what you decide to actually depict, you're almost certainly going to receive a lot of negative press and attention, and Void was no exception to this rule. When the studio first announced that this level was going to be in the game, they received a lot of backlash from the community. There were a lot of people saying that they shouldn't be out here gamifying tragedy. Or put more simply, they shouldn't be making a video game out of something that is so real and problematic. Some will even suggest that the studio's departure with their publisher, Team 17, was solely because of the introduction of this level. Now, I think that the biggest concern that most people had prior to its release was that they thought that through modding, it was going to allow players to go in and shoot up a school, which is unfortunately a trend that we can see across several different games. After all, one of the most downloaded mods for the Fallout series is literally called the Killable Children mod. People are always going to be doing these sorts of things to games, so you can't really blame a developer if they come into being. But you know, people did the thing that they always do, where they don't really look into things and they take a headline at face value. Because truth be told, the title of School Shooting Level is pretty inflammatory, it turns out. I mean, a perfect example is this video. You saw that thumbnail and you clicked on it. But anyways, this point aside, people got really pissed at the developers for making this level, which really sucks, considering that Elephant actually does an incredible job of picking on these points respectfully. and it helps to show us the true horror of experiencing something like this firsthand. And while at the end of the day, yes, this is a game and it cannot equate to going through something like this in real life, it can allow us to better grasp the true terror of these events. Because I'll be honest with you guys, I live here in the United States, and personally, I've sort of gotten desensitized to seeing stories about these sorts of things on the news, simply because they happen so frequently. Now, it's not like these events have gotten any less tragic or disturbing, but they happen with such a frequency that you sort of just get used to. And it makes me sick saying that. But after my playing of this level, it sort of hit me in the face, and it reminded me just how horrific school shootings are. But without further ado, I'm finally going to talk about the mission itself, its horrific real-world inspiration, and why I think that its criticisms might be just a bit unreasonable. So by all means, grab yourself a snack or something to drink and accompany me as we investigate the most controversial level in Ready or Not. Now, prior to each mission that we play, we have the option to view the briefing, which gives us little details and pieces of lore going into the level. Usually these have useful information that gives us a grasp on what to expect prior to our arrival, but for Elephant, we aren't really given anything. After all, this shooting has just happened, so the police department hasn't really had the opportunity to put together a detailed brief. All we have to work with are a few 911 calls and a map of the school's layout. And aside from that, we have no clue what's going on. Now, when we load into the map, we can see that there are two primary points of entry. One, which is the main entrance, and another smaller exit off to the side of it. Now, more often than not, I found myself getting absolutely sniped at the main entrance, so for the sake of my sanity, we're going to go in the other direction. Now, once we're inside of the building, we can immediately see why this level is as heavily criticized as it is. Aside from the obvious situation that is unfolding here, the map also shares a geometry and an architecture that is eerily reminiscent of American high schools. Now, this is the purpose of the map. The development team wanted it to look this way, but when you make your way inside of the college and actually look around, that's when it hits you. It seems that this level was initially meant to be a high school. But perhaps after facing all of this harsh outside criticism, the developers decided to rebrand it into a community college. Oftentimes, for the sake of filming my videos, I'll open up the console commands and I'll remove all of the enemies, just so I can explore the map a bit unbothered. And there is something so innately creepy about walking around and seeing such a familiar building in this chaotic state. Watt Community College is filled with little details that make it feel just like your hometown high school. The various posters on the bulletin boards, the layout of the classrooms, hell dude, even the water fountains are freakishly realistic. Void went through a ton of effort adding in these tiny, inconsequential details that most players will overlook. But in my opinion, these details are a part of what makes this level feel so scary. If the development team just did the bare minimum, like most studios do nowadays, this would feel sort of like your typical shooter map, which would be a horrible disservice to the topic that they're trying to cover here. If you're going to go out and face all of the criticism and actually make a level about a topic like this, it better be good. And needless to say, Void really understood this, and they packed in as much detail as they possibly could. But anyways, that rant aside, there is another reason why this map cuts as deep as it does, and that's its inspiration. As I mentioned in one of my previous videos, Elephant is loosely based upon a film by Gus Van Sant. This film, also called Elephant, is about an ordinary day at a high school being disrupted by a school shooting. The movie highlights how the mundane can quickly escalate into a nightmare, and it's really interesting to see the correlation between it and the level. For instance, the name of the college in Ready or Not is Watt Community College, and the name of the school in the movie is Watt High School. Furthermore, we can see that the attire worn by the shooters in the level is very similar to the attire seen in the movie. It's clear that the film Elephant had a great influence on the creation of this level, but there's another, much realer source of inspiration that the developers used, and arguably it's what makes this particular map so much more impactful than the others. On April 20th, 1999, 2 students killed 13 of their fellow classmates and injured roughly 20 more in what was, at the time, the deadliest school shooting in American history. Columbine is undoubtedly one of the single worst events that has ever happened in the US, and many people see it as the day that America lost its innocence. Now, the level Elephant shows some really creepy similarities to this event, both in the architecture of the school and the attack itself. For instance, in Elephant, in addition to bringing order to the chaos, we're also tasked with defusing 2 propane bombs, something that isn't seen in any of the other levels. However, this is something that is seen in the Columbine massacre, as 2 propane bombs were found in the cafeteria during one of the initial sweeps of the school. Luckily though, these